Welcome to 5 Minutes with Robert Adams, where I share my findings from the Bible about the end time, and especially that which concerns the return of Jesus. This is episode 3. In the first 2 episodes, we saw from Scripture that before Jesus comes back in glory, there will be a short time of trouble on earth called the Great Tribulation. The Bible does not provide us with a date when the Great Tribulation will begin, but it does present an incident that marks the starting point. Jesus informs us about this in his end-time discourse in the book of Matthew. He said, "So when you see standing in the holy place the abomination that causes desolation, spoken of through the prophet Daniel, let the reader understand. Then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. For then there will be great tribulation, such as has not been since the beginning of the world until this time, no, nor ever shall be." From this we understand that when the abomination that causes desolation stands in the holy place, then the Great Tribulation will begin. Thus we need to find out where the holy place is and what the abomination that causes desolation is. According to Jesus, this fateful event was spoken of through the prophet Daniel. Turning to the book of Daniel, we read, "His armed forces will rise up to desecrate the temple fortress and will abolish the daily sacrifice. Then they will set up the abomination that causes desolation." This tells us the abomination that causes desolation will be set up in the temple fortress. This must be the site of the holy place where Jesus says the abomination that causes desolation will stand. The holy place and the temple fortress definitely point to a Jewish temple in Jerusalem. The fact that Jesus mentions Judea in his prophecy supports this assertion, since Jerusalem is situated in that area. Seeing this as a prophecy of the end time, it must necessarily presuppose that a new Jewish temple will be constructed in Jerusalem. This assumption is substantiated by the presence of Jewish groups who, with increasing intensity, are now preparing for the rebuilding of the temple. Let's now identify the abomination that causes desolation in the end-time temple mentioned by the prophet Daniel and referred to by Christ. The Apostle Paul wrote in his second letter to the Thessalonians of the man of sin being revealed. He also called him the son of perdition, who opposes and exalts himself above all that is called God or that is worshipped, so that he sits as God in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. Here we see how the man of sin sets himself up in the temple of God, in other words, the end-time temple in Jerusalem. The man here is undeniably the one who is mentioned in the prophecy of Daniel we looked at that reads, "His armed forces will rise up to desecrate the temple fortress and will abolish the daily sacrifice. Then they will set up the abomination that causes desolation." From what we have seen, the abomination of desolation will be the man of lawlessness setting himself up in a future temple in Jerusalem and proclaiming himself to be God. This abomination will then cause desolation in Jerusalem and further abroad. The Apostle John calls the man who will do this the Antichrist. This man will enter the rebuilt temple and make his blasphemous declaration. According to Jesus, this event will mark the beginning of the Great Tribulation. What you've just heard is based on an excerpt of a book I've written called The Approaching Apocalypse. You can get information about this book from my website, lastdaysdetectivepublications.com. Thank you for listening.